Well, good afternoon, you two. How are you?
Hi, doing well.
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Welcome to all of you in Facebook land who are watching this with us today, or those of you who are joining us on the YouTube live channel or on Periscope. Hopefully, at least, we are being streamed right now on all three channels. I am very excited, very honored to be here today with Amanda Thrasher, who is admissions counselor at Christian Theological Seminary, and with Hazel Owens, who is a dual degree student at CTS for a short time longer. Right?
Yes.
The end is near. And we're going to talk today about the dual degree programs at Christian Theological Seminary and what they have to offer. Both of these folks are experts and are going to kind of lead us through what all there is in the dual degree programs and what all the dual degree programs are. So first of all, though, Amanda, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. How have the last few weeks been for you? Are you hanging in there?
I'm hanging in there. There's been some ups and downs, but I'm really enjoying the sunshine today. So that makes everything a bit better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hazel, how about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I can't complain. The sunshine, like Amanda's saying, is definitely helpful. But I'm doing fine. Just trying to plug away.
Yeah, great. Well, again, thank you everyone for tuning in with us. Hazel, I'm wondering if it's okay with you if we kind of begin with you a little bit. I'm wondering what it is or how it was that you decided that a dual degree program at CTS was right for you. What was your discernment process with that?
Yeah, so that is something that I truly believe was something that was brought to me. Not that I intentionally chose, that it was kind of chosen for me through my discernment. I benefited from going to therapy with a CTS grad. I didn't know that person was a grad at the time, and finished the, they were an MFT graduate from the counseling or CTS. And so my experience in therapy led me to really thinking about my purpose, thinking about my calling, thinking about what it is that I ultimately want to do. I was working in corporate America at the time that I started my counseling. And I was just at a point in my life where I needed the help through therapy, but I also was trying to grow spiritually at the same time. Leaving counseling, I remember feeling like, oh, everyone should feel like this. And I later found out that my therapist is also a licensed minister. And so I was like, And we did a lot of spiritual integration through our therapeutic work, but I didn't have language for it at the time. I just knew that I was feeling better. And so when I started thinking about that more and started doing more things that I would say will help shape my call through growing spiritually at my church and leading things at my church to speaking at other churches, the thought came up, well, maybe I should go back to school.
Yeah.
And I immediately rejected that idea because I already have a master's. I was like, I'm not doing this all over again. And and so just through that discernment and praying, it wouldn't let up. It just got stronger and heavier on me. And so finally I said, okay. But I knew it had to be both. It couldn't be one program or the other. It had to be both.
So tell me why it had to be both. And then, Amanda, I'm going to ask you to help us with the alphabet soup, because Hazel used MFT a minute ago.
So, sorry about that.
No worries. So why, Hazel, why did it have to be both degrees for you?
Well, again, for me at the time, I was growing spiritually. I was teaching at my church. I was leading Bible studies. And then I was also being invited by other churches on just for speaking engagements, workshop leading, keynoting, and things like that for different events that other churches were having in the city. And so I knew I wanted to have a deeper understanding. I just truly believe in studying yourself to be approved and just really making sure that I am fully equipped for the work of ministry.
Yeah.
So that was really important for me because I knew that that piece wasn't going anywhere. But I also couldn't separate what happened to me personally through the benefit of therapy. And how when those two roles came together for me personally, what that did. And I wanted to be able to do what someone did for me for other people. So I initially looked at my previous alma mater for a similar program, and they didn't have a program for both. It was one or the other. And I knew that if I was going to go back to school and I was going to do this, I would have to do both because I couldn't separate the two in my mind.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, Amanda, would you please untangle some of the letters, some of the alphabet soup for us a little bit?
Sure. I think it's fitting that it's tangled because in a way, and Hazel, you're speaking about the integration of the work. And so, so to untangle just for a moment, marriage and family therapy can be paired with the Master of Divinity. So that's the MFT and the MDiv as we speak. And then there's two other programs. So the Master of Divinity can also be paired with the Master of Theological Studies or with the Masters of Clinical Mental Health Counseling. So there's 3 different dual degree options available.
3 different dual degree options. Okay, thank you. And what is the MTS, the Master of Theological Studies? How does that differ from the MDiv? I can kind of understand the other two are both counseling oriented.
Right.
Help me with the MTS a little bit and how that differs from the Masters of Divinity.
So the MTS is more focused on research and writing. And so the culmination of that degree is a thesis or project. And there's some freedom as to studying what you are particularly interested in. So a little less practical experience out in a congregation or with a nonprofit.
Okay. And then how about either one? So Hazel, you're MDiv, MFT, marriage and family therapy. How is that program, again, to either of you, different than the other dual degree program, the clinical mental health program?
Yeah, I will let Amanda, you want to go first on that or
speak to that? Sure. Yeah. So the marriage and family therapy program typically focuses on working with individuals as well as couples and families. And then the clinical mental health counseling program has an emphasis on working with individuals and then groups of folks who are not necessarily related. So there's a bit of overlap, but then there's some defining characteristics of each program.
Okay. So we had a question come in. And by the way, those of you who are with us, I failed to say earlier, would love for you to say hi in the chat box, in the comment box. Let us know where you are. That would be wonderful. And also submitting questions. And we've had a question already, which is why should therapists care about theology, and why should theology students care about counseling skills? Hazel?
Yeah. So I remember my first year at CTS, and most of my classes were my Master's of Divinity courses. And I saw a lot of therapeutic aspects, even in theology. And in my marriage and family therapy courses, I saw a lot of theological concepts that could complement therapy. And I think the reality is, which is one of the things that I love about marriage and family therapy in particular, is that it is very much a systemic type approach to counseling. And so when you think about an individual, a couple, or even a family, they're part of a system. So the systems in which that they are part of in their familiar and communal circles, but then also the systems in which that they are part of societally. And so how does that impact a person mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? So whether a person prescribe themselves to a certain aspect of spirituality we're all spiritual beings in some way, shape, or form. And so having at least some level of awareness around theology helps in the therapy room, because you get that exposure. The person that you're sitting in front of, whether it's an individual, a family, or a couple, there's some sort of aspect to them that can be connected to the divine or not connected to the divine in some way. And then on the ministerial or theological side, many students who are going into an MDiv program have some sort of vocational ministry context that they're either already in or that they will find themselves in. And so they have to be aware of issues that can impact someone mentally and emotionally, and how can a pastor provide a higher level of pastoral care, or a minister or what have you, provide a higher level of care by having some basic understandings on how to help their community in which they serve in. So that's kind of my take on it.
Mm-hmm.
I would also add too that the importance of pastoral care for the self too, for both contexts, is just really helpful for the self to know, to gather a deeper understanding about the embedded theology that we hold, and then also to learn ways of coping with stress that comes up as a pastor as well.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, Amanda, in addition to working at CTS, you're also an alumna.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And which program was yours?
Clinical mental health counseling.
Yeah. So we have both represented here, both the MFT. Yeah. Right. So learning about oneself, right? What have you learned, Hazel or Amanda, either one, as a graduate and a near graduate? What have you learned about yourself through the program? Both of you mentioned that as a part of, or a benefit of, the dual degree programs.
Yeah. Amanda, did you want to?
Oh, you go ahead with that.
Yes.
I know you're in the heart of it. You really are in the heart of it right now.
It's funny. I just answered that question in an exit interview with Dr. Suzanne Coyle. And I think one of the biggest things that I realized about myself is that I'm more of a risk taker than what I thought that I was. And this ever-growing heart for justice that has been there, that I think because of some past experiences in my own life that has come to surface throughout this program, that piece of me have been pushed aside and almost in many ways suppressed. And going throughout both programs has been able to kind of take up root again and become very present. And I now have language for some of those past experiences that I didn't have before, and how to make meaning of those experiences, where it can now be fruitful for me and fruitful for the work that I have the privilege of doing going forward. So,
yeah, thank you. Amanda, is there anything you would like to add?
Well, I really liked, Hazel, how you spoke about the language, just that you have these experiences, and that the programs have really given you an opportunity to put language to those experiences so that they're more easily identified and worked through. And then, and I would say that something similar happened for me as well, being able to identify what's going on for me, what's going on for others, and then how to step in or not step in those necessary moments.
Yeah.
Great. All of this sounds wonderful, but there must be challenges, right? So, for instance, some possibilities, just throw that out there. What about, say, the way you structure your classes, the progression of classes? Talk about if that's a challenge. And then of course, if I were watching this in Facebook land or YouTube land or whatever land, and I'm also working full time and I have other responsibilities, perhaps I'm thinking, wow, even doing any additional degree is daunting. A dual degree. So maybe talk about those kind of work, study, life balances, challenges as well. So maybe the progression of courses first.
Mm-hmm.
Any advice?
Yeah.
Someone does that.
Yeah, I think for me, I gave myself a really hard goal in completing the dual program in 4 years, as opposed to the 6 years that you're allotted.
Okay.
It's a very aggressive goal. I don't recommend that to everyone. You definitely need to assess your lifestyle and other responsibilities that may be competing. That is not to say that it can't be done. So just know what type of sacrifices you will find yourself up against. I am in a category, whether you can see this as a fortunate or unfortunate. I don't have children. I don't have a husband or partner. I don't have a plant or a dog. Nothing needs to be fed or watered but me. So I have the flexibility and room to kind of be risky, not only with my time, but also with resources, because it's only me that I'm taking care of. However, I have colleagues who have completed the dual degree program prior to me, and even some that have entered into a dual program that have families and have jobs that are very much demanding or what have you. And so it's about really just trying to adjust your class schedule in a way that fits your lifestyle. And so you have to really have a sense of that, I would say, early on. And being real with yourself in that regard, and knowing that however the journey looks, it's going to be okay because it's your journey, and you don't have to compare or compete with someone else and how they're doing it. I know someone who did the dual program, and they took a little longer than 4 years to complete it. So it can be done. I think it's just really understanding what you're going to be getting into. And I love that CTS has started offering classes in a way that can be flexible to working adults. So online platforms, week-long intensives, things like that. And so while they could be challenging, I think having those options helps to offset those times where work has to be a priority, and you're trying to get your classes in where you can.
Well, thanks for saying that. And before we move on to the curriculum part, the course structuring or progression, I was going to follow up, Hazel, what you were saying with, I mean, all these questions, of course, are putting you on the spot. It's a live stream after all. But how has the seminary supported you through the challenges of accomplishing all of this, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So my very first semester, I lost my father. Right before the semester ended. And that was when I knew that my dad was going to pass away. And I found out probably about halfway through that semester. I was in I hope it's okay to name drop here, but I was in a class with Dr. C. And when it was a week-long intensive, and I spent so much of that time in and out of the class on the phone. Once I opened up about what was happening with my father, who I was a full-time caretaker, but then became a part-time caretaker for him, I noticed how the professors, how the dean at the time came alongside me in that process. And it was at that moment that I understood and knew that, oh, these people want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
And it's also up to me as a student to voice my need and to voice my concern as well. And that I have the freedom to do that. I have not had any moment where I felt like I couldn't express what was going on in my personal life to whether it's a faculty member, my advisor, or even people in the admissions office or what have you, or whoever I found connection with, and not have some sort of guidance or actual support that has been practical to help me navigate through getting to where I'm at now in the program, almost done. So.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Amanda, do you mind talking a little bit about the progression of courses or the integration of the program and how that works, just to give us a little insight?
Sure. I can give you some nuts and bolts, and you can feel free to reach out to me with any questions you might have. And in addition to this preliminary nuts and bolts I'll give you, you will meet with an academic advisor throughout your time, and they'll help to guide you so you're not just on your own figuring out what classes are best to take. So each dual degree program has a different credit hour requirement. So the counseling and therapy programs with the Master of Divinity are 111 credit hours, and the MTS MDiv is 96 credit hours. So that sounds like a lot, but it is possible, as Hazel can attest to really work through all of that. So we have, like Hazel said, intensive week-long courses. We have Saturday courses where there are 4 Saturdays throughout a semester where you'll meet in person, hopefully, and then do some independent work alongside that. And then we also have traditional 14-week classes, semester classes, where you'll meet for 3 hours, 1 day a week for a class. So say you are a full-time student and you're taking 9 credit hours, which is a minimum for full-time. You might have then 3 classes per week. So you might meet on Monday from 6 to 9 p.m. You might meet on Wednesday from 2 to 5 p.m. and Thursday from 2 to 5 p.m. And like Hazel said too, we really want you to succeed. We recognize that you have a life, that a lot of folks are starting their second or third career. And so that's why there's both evening classes available and daytime classes, and then the intensive formats. And it can really, those intensive formats can be really helpful if you're able to do so. You can take an entire 3 credit course in a week. And then maybe for the rest of the semester, that means you only need to take 2 traditional format classes.
Right.
And that's typically what I do for the most part every semester. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you found that to be helpful in the process?
I mean, it's helpful for sure. And I've learned after my first semester which courses I could actually do that with and actually get a nice retaining of the information. Not first semester, first year, but it is helpful from a time commitment perspective. So I front load heavy on the first half of the semester, and then the last half of the semester, I'm kind of cruising, if that makes sense. And so, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So are you in the cruising portion right now, or because it's so close to graduation?
Nope.
Is that different?
Not cruising yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, this semester, being the last semester, was a little more challenging not as far as difficulty of content, but I have Capstone in on top of a full load of classes. So, but that's okay because it's my last semester. So,
yeah.
Now, a little birdie told me that you may or may not have just passed your capstone.
I did.
Yeah.
I did a week ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So interpret for us what capstone course is.
So the capstone course for any counseling student, you have to take is pass or fail. You have a semester long to prepare for it. You kind of start preparing for it, I think, the moment that you start practicum in some way, maybe not directly, but it's like kind of at some point in practicum, it's just kind of in your head that, oh, I'm going to be doing this. But it is a paper and a presentation that you would do that would integrate self of the therapist. So earlier, Amanda was talking about understanding yourself and your own embedded theology and experiences or what have you. So that along with theology, so some theological concept or some form of theology and whatever theory that you're using with your capstone case.
Yeah.
And so you pick for the MFTs, it has to be a relational case. So a couple or family that you feel like you do your best work as a therapist. And I believe for CMHC's clinical mental health counselors, it will be, of course, the individual that you're working with that you feel that this is your best work. And you get consultation throughout the whole process with supervisors and peers and all of that. So
great. Now, my understanding is both of you traveled some while you were at CTS. Is that right? And so some of your educational experience. I want to say a few words about the travel opportunities. I think that's another thing that's especially attractive for someone considering seminary.
Yeah. So for me, 2 years ago, we, Dean Gunning Francis, Dr. Robert Saylor, and Dr. Scott C. hosted a Reformation Travel seminar. And so it was honoring and paying attention to 500 years at that time of the Protestant Reformation, the Protestant reformer Martin Luther, and commemorating 50 years. And I don't even know if commemorating is the appropriate word there, because 50 years since MLK's assassination. And so both reformers in their own right. And so we got to travel to Europe. We spent some time in Germany, various parts of Germany, and in Rome, Italy, to study and walk the footsteps of Martin Luther. And so that fall semester for that class, our classroom was in Europe and on the plane and however else we traveled. And then in the spring, we did the same thing with Martin Luther King Jr. and bus through the South through all the civil rights stops that the Freedom Riders would have been very much making their mark on and following his footsteps as well.
So Amanda, if I were interested in applying to one of the dual degree programs or any degree program at CTS, what should I do?
So there is an application on our website, and you can start that at any point. Everything that you need is on that application. So you'll need to write a 700-word essay on your sense of vocation, why you think CTS is right for you in your faith journey. You'll need to include 4 references.
Okay.
And those can be individuals who can speak to your academic capacity as well as your vocational calling. And you'll also need a photograph and transcripts from universities and colleges that you've been a part of. And you can always email me with any questions you have. We'd like to talk with you more about the programs and what we have to offer and just the details as well.
Is there any financial aid?
Yes, that's a great question. I'm surprised that hasn't come up in the live comments questions yet. But there are, yes. So the deadline is June 15th, but you can fill out the application at any time. And that application will serve as your application for scholarships and grants as well. If you're interested in grants that are based on need, fill out your FAFSA as soon as you can. But we do still have scholarship opportunities.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Last thing I thought we might touch on a little bit. I mean, that almost makes it sound like I have all this planned out ahead of time. I have a few things in mind, but I'm wondering about the vocation part. Okay, so I'm a prospective student. I'm interested possibly in seminary. I decide, yes, I am interested in seminary. Now I learn about a dual degree option. I now understand kind of the benefits of both the counseling and theology side and how they're mutually reinforcing. Now, vocationally, where do you see the two integrating and coming together, and where do you see the two staying somewhat separate or at least distinct? Hazel, what are your thoughts?
Are you talking for me personally or just in general?
Let's go with you personally, because that always makes it more fun.
So for me personally, I am one to believe that ministry is all around me. So I came into the program initially not looking to work within a church. That was not my plan. My plan was to do more of my integrating of spirituality or vocational ministry, however you want to put it, with therapy outside of the church. So that may look like hosting seminars or workshops or what have you that integrates the two. It may also show up in the therapy room where a client may say, hey, I kind of want to integrate aspects of my faith with our work. And so we'll do it there as well. However, I did supervised ministry and I ended up landing a job at a church. And so the things that I thought that I would do outside of the church, there's a church that has hired me to do some of those things. So nice. I get to blend some of that as well as have a justice component vocationally. And so the way that it's separate for me is that I do not do direct therapeutic counseling with members of that church per se, but I may do some pastoral counseling or what have you. I may still do workshops for other churches where I'm speaking about mental health, which I've been able to do that. And then, of course, in the therapy room, that's going to be contingent upon the client.
Amanda, any further thoughts about that? One thing I did have down to ask you about, Amanda, is you also did a postgraduate residency, and how walk us through that process, because it seems to me that would be another vital and very complementary part of the program that I would want to know about going into.
Yeah, absolutely. So once you graduate with a degree in mental health counseling or marriage and family therapy, there are a certain number of hours you have to obtain in order to become licensed in the state of Indiana and work with clients. And so you can do that in a variety of ways. A lot of folks work with an agency. Some go into group practice under a licensed supervisor. And then there's a residency opportunity here at the counseling center. So we haven't mentioned that yet, but there is a counseling center on the CTS campus. And so when you do your practicum as an MFT or MHC student, you work with clients there at the counseling center. So this residency portion is post-graduation, an opportunity for you to continue to earn your hours that you need for licensure, but in that CTS community. And so it operates a lot like private practice. It really prepares you for that. If that's something that you're interested in, you still receive referrals from the counseling center, but you can also build your own practice and begin to learn what it takes to do so.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Well, as you've seen some, you don't, on your screens, you don't get to see all the comments, but you've gotten lots of love, lots of appreciation, some congratulations, Hazel. Is there anything else that we should say for people considering the dual degree program? Anything about it that I've not asked? Anything you're looking forward to that hasn't come up yet in our conversation? Yeah.
I don't have any. I think we covered a lot.
Well, thank you both so much for your time today. Yes, I add my congratulations, Hazel, to you, and
thank you.
Thanks. You're welcome. And my thanks to you, Amanda, for your great work at CTS. Also, just to remind folks, you can go to our website, which is cts.edu, for more information to begin your application process. The application deadline is June the 15th, but like Amanda said, she is available to for any kind of help or any kind of questions that you might have. Thanks very much. Appreciate your time. Have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.